How long until we see Franklin Arias in the majors? That question comes via Instagram from Alex Willman. That is the first question we are going to ask on today's edition of the Red Sox Rundown presented by Prize Picks. The first question we're going to answer, I am your host, Jack Lotteray. Today is our Instagram-only mailbag. I promised this a few weeks ago. I said, go follow me on Instagram. It's at the Red Sox Rundown, and we would do an Instagram-only mailbag. So that is what we are going to be doing today. How about this? If you want me to do a Twitter/X only mailbag, go follow me on Twitter/X at Jack Lotteray. If we get enough followers, I'm going to shoot for 15 new followers. If we get 15 new followers on Twitter/X, I will do a Twitter/X only mailbag. Today's mailbag is just from our Instagram. So if you want me to do one over on X, go follow me at Jack Lotteray. Okay, back to the first question here. And I am self-producing today, guys, so please bear with me on that. But Alex says, how long until we see Franklin Arias in the majors? I think that there's one key factor that's really going to have to do with whether or not and when we see Franklin Arias, and that's Trevor Story. It's going to depend on how Trevor Story does coming off the IL. An article came out a day or so ago that talked about how they're going to take their time. Tim Healy had that article, which we'll actually talk about here in a second. But Arias is not going to do anything until we know how Trevor Story looks. And it seems like, according to Tim Healy, and here's his quote, that might be a little while. The Red Sox goal, interim manager Chad Tracy explained Friday, is for Story to have played enough in the minors to when he gets back to the Sox, he won't be stuck in an every other day kind of thing. They want him to shake off that rust occurred across 3 months on the sidelines because of sports hernia surgery in games that are not part of the big league push. So, taking that and bringing that back around to Franklin Arias, let's see how Story does, then we go from there. I don't think there's going to be any definitive answer. There's also the factor that a lockout is coming. I know there's been some reports around that, and the fact that since Arias is not on the 40-man roster when the lockout happens, he's not technically a part of it because he's still in the minors and he's not on the 40-man roster, so he can still use all of the facilities. He can still be in contact with the Red Sox. So all of that goes into play there. So let's see how Story does. Then we'll go from there. If Story looks good, we might not see Arias this year. If he looks really, really bad, then we might need to have a conversation about potentially bringing Franklin Arias up to the major league roster. James Kennedy with the next question. He said, what do you believe they are going to do with Mona now that Story is on his way back? Another question that has been asked quite a bit. I think this one's a much simpler answer than the Franklin Arias question. They're just going to put him at second. He's earned that spot. You know, right now, second to platoon with Sogard, Siegler, and a whole bunch of other guys. But they're going to put Monasterio at second. Story will be at short when he comes back. Chad Tracy has already, announced that. I don't think there was a lot of doubt on that. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cut and dry answer there. Andruw Monasterio is going to be at second. Trevor Story is going to be at short. That is what the infield alignment is going to be once Trevor Story comes back healthy. And then, depending on how Story does, we'll make some more decisions from there. Shout out to Austin. You guys know Austin. He's all over Red Sox Instagram. He has a question today. Does Garrett Crochet, in your opinion, appear before the very end of the regular season? Well, it's funny you bring that up, Austin, because we just got an update a few days ago from Christopher Smith. Garrett Crochet is thrown out to 90 feet with more intensity, Chad Tracy said, which is good news. He's taken yet another step in his rehab process. This one, they're going to slow play. I totally understand that. Pitcher's arms, man, and the whole shoulder and all of that. You need to take care of it. And you gave Crochet the extension. He's going to be your ace for years to come. So slow ball it. I will say this: I want him back as much as the next guy. I really, really want Crochet back, but I don't want them to rush him. That is the worst thing you can do for his development. Because like I said, you don't want to risk further injury. Seems like everything's going to plan, but don't rush him back. We've seen players get rushed back this year on the Red Sox, and it hasn't worked out. So take your time, make sure he's fully ready to go, and don't rush him. Will Garrett Crochet pitch again this year? It's very simple. Type Y for yes, type N for no. You let me know your thoughts. And while we're getting your thoughts down below, do need to tell you about the sponsor of today's show. You guys know them. They're our friends over at Prize Picks, ladies and gentlemen. Prize Picks is the place to go if you love daily fantasy sports. It is America's #1 sports picks app, and they have a fantastic offer for you. If you download the app, sign up, and use code HMA, you're going to get $150 in bonus lineups after you win your first $5 lineup. The app is super simple to use, folks. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in, and it's not just football or baseball or basketball. They got motorsports as well. Here is my lineup for this weekend's big motorsports race in New Hampshire. I'm going less on Austin Cindric's finishing position of 12.5. The Penske cars have been looking really good as of late. Austin Cindric finished in the top 5 last weekend. I'm going less on Chase Elliott, 10.5 finishing position. He had a really good ride last week as well. And then Christopher Bell has been really, really good at New Hampshire, so I'm going to go less on 4.5 finishing position for him. That is just one example of a lineup you can make on Prize Picks. You can also follow me with the social feeds feature. You can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That includes me and everyone here at Chat Sports. And they also have early payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Ladies and gentlemen, New Year's offer is a new offer, so listen up. You play your first $5, you get $150 in lineups if you win. You just got to use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to cash in, lock in, join, and win that first $5 lineup. One more time, that is code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Colby with a question. What is one position that Breslow should have addressed at the MLB trade deadline? Really good question, Colby. Thank you so much for asking it. This one's also, it is a loaded question, but I actually think it's pretty simple. Pitching, pitching, and pitching. I get that they made the trade for Eric Miller. Really good trade. I thought he was, he's been a really great addition to the Red Sox bullpen. He's played really, really well so far. But the depth that you have in just your pitching staff in general is at least a little bit concerning. These are the guys you've traded away in the last year. Connolly Early, Anthony Einstein, Kyson Witherspoon all go at the deadline. Hunter Dobbins, Quinn Priester, Richard Fitz all traded away this past offseason. So you lose quite a bit of your farm / your depth. You know, Dobbins, Priester, Fitz were all, and Early, were all major league starters at one point. Einstein, Witherspoon, depth in your farm system. And so you say, okay, Jack, well, you lose those 6 guys, but you got other guys. Well, currently on the IL, you've got your ace, Garrett Crochet. You've got 2 of your top 3 relievers, Whitlock and Slayton. Tanner Houck, Johan Oviedo, some more depth pieces. You don't really have much depth. And I get you brought in 1 reliever, but there was also the reports that they were going after a starting pitcher as well, and they didn't do that. They ended up trading away more starting pitchers than they acquired. The Sox have little to no depth in either the rotation, and the bullpen. They've got no depth at all. And so that is, and you trade, I forgot to put in there, you trade away Tyler Uberstein as well, who was also depth. So you traded away a lot of guys that could contribute to a postseason run, and you didn't bring a lot back in either. I am concerned, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this here in a second when we talk about the starting rotation here in a few minutes. But there's also workload concerns with the guys that are here. Tolley, Bennett, and Patrick Sandoval. That's 3 of your 5 starters in the rotation right now. There are concerns. So I think Breslow should have probably gone to the well for a little bit more pitching. I still am highly favorable of the haul that he got at the deadline. I think the Rutschman trade's really good. I really like the Curtis Mead addition, even though he hasn't really played because he took that fastball off his wrist. But yeah, I do definitely think they probably should have looked at a little bit more starting pitching. I don't know what the prices were. They might have been a little bit too high. But yeah, the pitching's definitely at least a little bit of concern from a depth perspective. Shiren, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. But thank you so much for the question. September call-ups are soon. Who are you calling up? That is right. When September comes around, the rosters expand and you can bring up a few players to your roster. If I'm making call-ups, here is who I think I would call up. I'm going to call up a position player and a pitcher. Position player, I think Romy. And everyone's going to say, Jack, he was horrible when he was up here. I get it. He got rushed. He had, 2-3 rehab starts in AAA, and then he got called back up. He was rushed up. There's no sugarcoating it about it. I think with some time down in Worcester, some time to, really, stretch out and get ready, I think Romy would be the position player that I would call up in September. And then pitcher Eduardo Rivera. He's got some experience in the majors, made a few starts in the majors. I really like his stuff. He's big, lengthy lefty that I think is could be really, really valuable. The only thing to keep an eye out for is he is currently on the restricted list, and he had been on the AAA IL for a few days with back inflammation. So you might not be able to call him up if there's something going on there, but he would be my call if I had to make a decision right now. So, yeah, we're going to see. There's going to be a lot of interesting conversations coming up in the next few weeks. How does Christian Campbell look? Does Franklin Arias make a push? There are names that you can consider and that you can talk about. But the ones that I think make the most sense just right now, names that are already on the 40-man roster, Romy, Eduardo Rivera, those are the guys that I think make the most sense. Again, another caveat to that is they are currently on the 40-man roster. I don't really want to kick anybody off the 40-man roster to bring anybody on, because then you've got to make a whole slew of moves around that. So this just makes the most logical sense. These are the guys that I would call up. N_Gray6 has a really good question here as well. Does Mickey Gasper have a spot on the bench and the team come to playoffs? Now, Mickey was a candidate for those September call-ups, and you're saying, Jack, why is he just not on the team now? Well, you've got Story and Roman coming up. I would assume when both of them are back, Mickey's one of the corresponding moves back down to AAA. That's just my assumption. I don't know that for a fact, but that's probably what I would do. So Mickey is in conversation for that September call-up. But let's be real with ourselves for a second. The 3 home run streak was fun. It was awesome. It was so cool to see Mickey have those moments. But don't let that distract you from the resume, though. He's had some clutch hits. He's been very good when he's been up here this year. Yes, I will admit that. I'm not acting like he's a bad player. He's not a bad player. He obviously deserves the spot that he has. But do I trust him on a playoff roster more than someone like a Romy or like a Sogard? Or if you make that call like an Arias or a Campbell, there are just too many people I would take above him. Like 2025, he was not good, guys. He was not good. 2026, and these are kind of similar at-bats, similar games played. He's been better, but still, I think there are different players that I think would suit the team better when we get to the playoffs. I just don't think there's enough room. He's contributed this year. And we're never going to forget that. We're never going to forget the 3 home runs in three games. That's electric. That's awesome. Mickey's great. I love Mickey Gasper. I got no ill will toward Mickey at all. I just think with the wealth of riches that you have position player-wise, these quadruple A guys that have experience up in the major leagues, I just don't think there's enough roster room. As much as I would love to have him on the roster come October, I just don't think it makes the most sense when there's other players like Romy, like Sogard. You've got Nate Eaton down there as well. There's just too many players, not enough spots. You let me know, though. You be Craig Breslow. You be Chad Tracy. Has Mickey Gasper earned a playoff roster spot? Type 1 if you think he has. Type 0 if you think he has not. You let me know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about, like a lot of people like to say in the comments. You let me know down below in the comments. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Has Mickey Gasper earned a playoff roster spot? Goody Gutierrez with a question. Greens from Costa Rica. Let's go. Shout out to you for watching. Thank you so much. Can our current pitching staff go all the way to the World Series? So this was the question I was referring to a little bit ago when I was talking about what Breslow should have done at the deadline. And I mentioned pitching. This is your current rotation. This is what he's asking. He's saying, does our current pitching staff get us all the way to the World Series? You've got Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez, who are consistent vets, have looked really good this year. I trust them in the playoffs. I think they'll be fantastic. Then you've got the 3, 4, 5. Peyton Tolley, Jake Bennett, Patrick Sandoval. All three have had their moments this year, specifically Tolley and Bennett, although Sandoval has been fairly consistent if you look at the underlying stats. They've all had their moments this year. The issue I run into with these guys, and as we're getting down to the end of the year, and if the season goes long into October, I worry quite a bit about the workload. I do. Nobody envisioned when they traded Luis Perales for Jake Bennett that he would be upwards of 100 innings pitched in the majors this year. Nobody envisioned that. But here we are. This is the world we're living in. Injuries, trades, things of that nature, they have given a lot of confidence to Jake Bennett. Peyton Tolley, we knew coming into this year, his first full year in the majors, that it was going to be something to monitor. Could the workload hold up? And mostly it has, but there has been some bumps in the road, specifically as of late, as he has had to go on regular major league rest, but what would be short rest in the minor leagues. And then Sandoval, coming off of elbow surgery, he's been good, but over his last few starts, he has started to show some chips in the armor. So when you go into October and you pitch a bunch more innings in high leverage situations and you're asked to go long, you're asked to throw a bunch of pitches, I worry about the workload grinding them down and not being able to carry over into the postseason. I trust Suarez and Gray. I think they'll both be fantastic. And really, you could live with two solid starters. But if you want to make the World Series, you need all of your starters to be going on all cylinders. You also might need them out of the bullpen. Who remembers Nathan Eovaldi in 2018? Who remembers David Price in 2018? Those guys throwing gutsy performances out of the bullpen, especially Nathan Eovaldi. We all remember that. So you're going to need these guys. And the workloads are a concern. Bennett got an extra day of rest. They did a bullpen game because of the work. Bennett was worn down. That's concerning. Now, again, no one expected him to be in that position this year, but next man up, it is what it is. So I need to see if the workload's going to hold up or not. I am a little bit concerned about that. Last question, another one from Austin. He had two really good questions. That's why I pulled them today. How long do you think it might be until Roman gets activated from the IL? That is the magic question, isn't it? I do just want to start by saying this just makes me so happy to just see Roman back, hit the home run in his first game. His second game, he didn't do anything, but then the game after that, he has a sac fly. He has a scorcher of a double off the wall in the outfield. It looks like he's coming back to form, and that just makes me super, super happy. In terms of when he's going to come back, and these have been reports and stuff, but they are playing the slow game with Anthony and Story, as they should be. We saw again with Romy at the beginning when Adley first came up. We've seen this with multiple guys. They have rushed guys back from the IL out of necessity. They needed them. They needed the help. They can't do that with Anthony and Story. If Anthony and Story are going to contribute to a postseason run, they need to be ready. I love the philosophy that the Red Sox are taking around Trevor Story, as Chad Tracy talked about, that we talked about at the beginning of the video with the Tim Healy article. I love that philosophy. Them playing enough games in the minors so that there is no day on, day off, have to get the rust off. Get the rust off now so that they are ready to go full steam ahead for a playoff push in September. So in terms of when Roman's going to be back, we might be a week or so still away. I don't think they're going to rush him back. If he continues to absolutely rake down in Double-A, maybe he moves up to Triple-A in Worcester. You see what he does there. But I don't think they're going to rush him. I think that's the right decision. But, of course, we will see crazier things have happened at the end of the day. Is Roman back before September? I'm recording this on September 22nd. It's going to come out on September 23rd. So he's got about a week. I'd say after. I'm typing my A for after, but you let me know. B for before, A for after. Is Anthony back before September? And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. A little Sunday morning Sox for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this edition of the Red Sox Rundown. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already, because we have daily content surrounding the Boston Red Sox. Even though the trade deadline's in the past, We are getting closer to the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, and with the Red Sox securely in a wild card spot right now, you're not going to want to miss any of the content. We're going to have everything leading up to the playoffs. If/when they make the playoffs, we'll be live for every playoff game as well. You're not going to want to miss it. So hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and until next time, go Sox.